Hey, today we're going to be talking to you about buzzwords. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Kim at Keeping the Vows.
You bet. A buzzword is something that came about when I was a kid, and I'll tell you a story about how it happened. First, I got to tell you, a buzzword is something where you say a short phrase or a word, and it's just this little short thing, but it means this great big thing in your communication with the two of you. It means something much larger, but you both know it's just a shortcut to get you where you want to go. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk to you about is I think she was sitting in that chair. And I had a neighbor when I was a kid, and they were older people, and they had some people over to their house one night, and the husband and wife were there in the kitchen with the company, and the husband was telling something this other lady had said over at their house, and his wife said, "That's not what she said. That's not what she said." And finally, after arguing a while in front of their company, which was very awkward, he said, "No, that's what she said because she was sitting in that chair." And his wife said, "No, she wasn't. She was sitting in that chair." True story. So now, not only could they not agree on what the person said, now they couldn't even agree on what chair she was sitting in when she said it. So they had a big argument, and the company left. And later that night, his wife went out to the barn and she hung herself with a rope. True story. True story. Well, it really impacted me as a kid. So what our family did, my mom actually probably started it, was if we started, us kids, there was four of us and my mom and dad, and if somebody started down a path to an argument, and the person realized this is kind of futile, this is kind of silly, there's no reason to really do this, at our home, we would just say, "I think she was sitting in that chair," which took us back to that event that made no sense, which meant it's not worth killing yourself over this. So I think she was sitting in that chair was the first one. And so what that does is if Kim and I are headed down a path where we see one of us is maybe, or both of us are maybe kind of grumpy or something like that, not that Kim would ever get grumpy. But anyway, if say I'm grumpy and we start down a path that maybe doesn't look so good, Kim has the right to go, "I think she was sitting in that chair." And in my mind, I think, "Oh my gosh, this is silly. Yeah, let's just time out. Let's just stop this. Let's forget this." So it's a great thing because it can stop arguments. It just makes you revalue the situation and start anew.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times you get arguing about something and your pride or your ego gets in the way and you think you have to be right. When you stop and think about it, it's just the silliest little thing. So
It used to be that way a lot.
so that's really a good thing to help you with your communication. So let's just not even fight about this.
Kim likes to cook food, and she likes to cook food that I like, so she's going to tell you about the next one.
Yeah, the next buzzword we use is called Rate the Food. And as Mitch said, I like to try a lot of new recipes, but I want Mitch to like it. So whenever I make something new, I ask him to rate the food from 1 to 10, and he is not rating me. We have in our premarital counseling, sometimes women get pretty upset with him because they think he's rating me. But he's not. He's rating the recipe.
And Kim can separate that. Some women have trouble with that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because I know I'm a good cook. He knows I'm a good cook, so it's okay. He's only rating the recipe. So anyhow, he's rated negative numbers.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I've had like -4 and plus 15 or something. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stay inside the lines. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't stay in a box. So.
What box?
So anyhow, if the recipe is under a 7 or an 8, I just throw it away and don't ever make it again because there's enough recipes out there that we both like, and that way I'm making food we both enjoy. And this kind of goes to our next buzzword. They kind of go together too.
Yeah, well, something else too, though, is that I do on that is like if something's like a 10, after 3 or 4 months and she's made it, or maybe a year or two, she's made it, I'll say, "You know, this was a 10. Now I think it's about a 7. And she'll go, "Okay." And then she just rearranges how she buys groceries for it. Once again, she doesn't take it personal. But anyway, so this next one leads right into this, okay? If you ever watched Everybody Loves Raymond, on the very first date, she made something called lemon chicken. And after that, all throughout the show, whenever she'd make lemon chicken, he'd go, "Oh, lemon," you know, his high, whiny voice, "Oh, lemon chicken." He didn't like lemon chicken. But she kept making it all those years, okay? So what happens if I come home at the end of the day and I've had a bad day, okay? And I walk into the house and I smell lemon chicken. If I, had a dog, which I do now, I don't kick dogs, but it'd make you want to kick a dog or something. I'd never do that. But anyway, just put you in a worse mood yet. So if I come home, I'm in a bad mood, I smell food that I don't like, it's like, oh, rats, But on the other hand, if I come home and I've had a bad day and I open up the door, or even outside the door, I'm opening and I smell something like party chicken or Kim's beef and noodles, or gosh, one of many other dishes that she makes that I just love the smell of, it actually changes and puts me in a better mood. As a man, it makes me feel, geez, somebody loves me. And it puts me in a better mood. So this next one is called I've Had a Bad Day. Now you might say, well, why does he get to come home and he has a bad day? What if I had a bad day? Well, we'll explain that in just a minute. So if I come home, I can just say I've had a bad day. And what Kim does for me is Kim puts me in what I call an intensive care mode. I go and sit down in my chair. I put something on the TV that takes like the IQ of a small dinner salad to keep up with the plot, something like MASH or Barney Miller or something old, Andy Griffith or something like that, I put something on the TV just to veg out and shut off my mind and do that. Kim will make supper and she'll bring it in and I have right beside my chair in the living room, I keep is it called a dishcloth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good for a man, right? I have a dishcloth and I'll take that and put it on me as an apron. She'll bring my food in and set it in my lap and put my drink right there. Now, how could that not help my mood? And you might say, well, she's serving you like it. Yeah, she knows I've had a bad day. She's willing to serve me like that. But let's flip it around. What if she's had a bad day? Kim happens to be a stay-at-home mom, but what if she's had a bad day? If I'm at work and I get a text or something in the middle of the day or an email that says, hey, could we go out and eat tonight? Then I know what that means. It means she's had a bad day, and it means that we're going to go out and eat. And I always say, sure, babe, no problem. And then it's her chance to have a little bit of intensive care, and I kind of watch over and coddle her because she's hurting too. So if you just say the words, I've had a bad day, it changes everything. Now, what if you've both had a bad day? Well, then that's when you lean on each other. Sometimes marriage is you just leaning against each other, walking down the road, and that's what you do. And you just kind of empathize with each other and love on one another and give each other some extra grace and some extra mercy. All right?
Yep.
Next one's my claim to fame. It's my claim to fame.
Caveman.
Caveman.
Actually, I think you should explain this. You do good.
Women think that men are the strong ones. I just totally disagree. I think women are the strong ones, okay? And I think that men have an incredibly fragile ego. All you have to do is tell a man he's not a good lover or he doesn't make enough money, and it just demasculates the man. A man has an incredibly fragile ego, and a woman doesn't understand that she can build his ego up or tear it down. I once watched a woman who just shredded her husband's ego for years, and then once he felt like he was nobody, she left him. I see that from time to time in my counseling. But a woman with her tongue and what she says to her husband, she can make him as much of a man or as little of a man as she wants to. And so the next one is called Caveman. I know that I have a fragile ego, and I know that I need to have it boosted and I need to have it built up. And so we were just saying a minute ago that a guy has to know he's a good lover. We were telling some friends this, and I told the wife, I said, the husband needs to know he's a good lover. I looked at him, I said, you don't even care if she's lying to you and she tells you a good lover, right? And he goes, right. He was just like Pavlov's dog. It's just hilarious because he didn't care if she's lying. A man just needs to believe that he's a good lover. So, Caveman. I happen to do woodworking. I built these rocking chairs, and I do a lot of different things in the garage. And so I will open up the door, and I have a thing called Caveman. I open the door, and I say, hey, babe. And she goes, yeah, somewhere in the house. And I say, have you got a minute? And she most always goes, yeah, I can come. And I go, Caveman. Now, caveman is a buzzword, and all it means is this. I'm a man. I have an incredibly fragile ego. Come out and stroke my ego. Tell me how wonderful I am, because I don't even care if you're lying. Just make it up. And she'll come out and she'll go, oh, honey, this wood is so smooth, and look at how pretty that green is. How did you do that? I am so proud of you, right?
And if you can see these rocking chairs, I don't have to lie. He really is great.
Yeah, well, whatever. My wife thinks I'm great, and that's all that really matters to me. So anyway, it's interesting. And my sons have actually done the same thing. Like, Ben will be out woodworking, and he'll open up the door and say, Mom, and she'll go, yeah, you go, Caveman. And she wants to come out and see what we've done and stroke our ego. So caveman just means, hey, I'm a man, I'm insecure, come out and tell me how great I am. And there's something special that happens when my wife tells me that she thinks I'm neat. Yeah, I'm that way. I'm that pathetic almost, but
You're not pathetic.
that's how I am. What's next? You want to do the next one?
I have a number in mind.
You do.
Okay, well, if we're going to make... Oh, you go ahead.
Kim doesn't like to talk. if we're gonna, like, say somebody sends us a letter and they're gonna go on a mission trip and they want some money, okay, we don't know how much, right? Go ahead, Kim.
So he's afraid if he says a number first that I'll just agree with whatever he says. So he'll say, I have a number in mind. And so then I decide what and say what I think, and then he'll tell me what he thinks, and we'll go from there.
Makes perfectly good sense. Kim tends to not have a real strong opinion, so if I would say $50 and she's thinking 25, I want to know what she's thinking. So I actually get the number in my head, and then when she says her number, I will still say the number that I was thinking. So that works good. So, sometimes decisions are hard. So that's something like that. Even the same way, like if you're going to go out to a restaurant or somewhere, just say, we'll do that where we'll say, okay, I'll say, where do you want to go eat? And she'll say, I don't care. And I figured out after like 37 years, she doesn't care when she says she doesn't care. So I'll say, well, how about one of these 3 places? And, maybe I'll do that because then I feel like I want to bring her in on the decision, So we do that. Another thing too is sometimes in the counseling, I know I've done up to 520 hours of counseling in a year, and sometimes you get home and your mind is just loaded with a lot of things. And so sometimes in the evening we'll be sitting there eating at the table, and she'll look at me, and she knows me really well after 37 years. She'll say, where are you at? And I'll say, oh, because then I'll realize I'm not really there, mentally, emotionally. And I'll say processing. And processing is a buzzword that we use that says, okay, I got a lot on my mind. I'm getting it worked through my mind. I'll be with you in maybe 15, 30 minutes at the most. Let me work this through if you would. So if we're sitting at the table and she says, where are you? And I say, processing. She'll say, okay. And she realizes that my brain needs some time to get maybe some of this heavy duty stuff out of my mind so it doesn't bother me anymore. So processing is another one. And the last one's called you decide. You want me to do that one too? Okay. I guess we're doing odds and evens. This is the odd number. It's mine. So anyway,
we got off track.
There's times when I just feel like a lot of times I make the decision and I want Kim to do that. So I just ask her if she'll decide. I say, you decide, and put it in her part. So like, for instance, if you're a person that feels like you always make the decisions and your partner doesn't feel like they get to make the decisions, then it's up to you to go, well, you decide. Why don't you decide where we want to go? Okay. And it lets them in on that. It lets them do that. All right. So what are our buzzwords we got? First of all, I think she was sitting in that chair. Rate the food is the second one. I've had a bad day. Caveman. I have a number in mind. And processing. And then you decide. Now that's just 7 of ours. And what's really crazy is we've done well over 100 premarital counselings. And we see people later and they'll go, oh, I use that caveman all the time. Or I use, I think she was sitting in that chair. It's been 3 years. We're still using that. Well, we don't have any patents on these. You feel free to use them, but by all means, you don't have to use any of ours. But one thing we really would like to have you do is get back with us and let us know if you have any buzzwords or something like that you do. Something you do to break the tension of things. I recently spoke at a church and I was talking about little things that aggravate when you get married. And I said the toilet paper has to come off the roll the right way or else, there's a thing. And this guy came up afterwards and he was a husband and he said, I'm a woodworker. My wife and I disagreed on that when we first got married. I'm a woodworker. So I just went out and made a double toilet paper holder side by side. Hers goes one way, mine goes the other way. And I thought, cool, that I'll use that. That's really great. So if you would, if you like this video, appreciate it if you like it. Appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. By all means, write us. Go to keepingthevows.com and give us some Q&As. We'd love to answer those. And you have a wonderful, wonderful day.